Welcome to a special bonus episode of 10 with Ken. I'm Ken Steele. In September, we went on location to the 2017 Ontario University's Fair to speak with presidents and senior administrators about innovation in higher education. We're here at the Algoma University booth, and I'm speaking with Celia Ross, the Acting President and Vice Chancellor. Thank you for taking a couple minutes out of your day to speak with us today.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's exciting to be here, and it's exciting to talk to you.
What innovations at Algoma University make you justifiably proud and could serve as examples for other institutions?
I think what would come to mind first for Algoma is really things around First Nations. As you know, we're in a former Indian residential school building. About 25 years ago, students from that school, who are now pretty elderly, most of them, got together and formed an alumni association. And since then, they've been working with us to change the paradigm of education from European settler knows everything, teach people who know nothing, to really becoming a two-way dialogue. Something that I think is very valuable at Algoma comes from the past. Actually, it's not something new. And that's simply the idea that if you have a small class of students with a professor sitting down in a circle, not in straight lines, but in a circle, and just talking and discussing. It's an old way of teaching. It's a way that can be preserved. Some universities develop special streams to preserve that way of teaching. Others say it's what happens in graduate school. We have seminars all the way through, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, because our classes are small. It's in the small groups that students talking themselves, talking through situations, talking through scenarios, talking through a book that they've read. That's how I believe that they really grow and develop. And of course, technology again helps us do this. We have classes that are taught in First Nations that are fairly far away. We have classes taught in Timmins now increasingly. We have some classes that we're teaching in Brampton. And all of those can be linked to the main campus by videoconferencing and by all the other technological means that we have to continue the dialogue in small groups. You could form one of those small discussion groups, say of 10 or 12 people, but some would be in Brampton, some would be in Timmins, one might come from Moosonee, one from Kashechewan, and all talking together. We have an institute for community-based research. This institute is a great learning place for our students who can volunteer there, who can do part of their coursework with the institute, and who then often get internships through one of the funding agencies to work on projects that the institute runs. We will go into the community as part of a community team and make sure that the community members have the knowledge and the tools to work with us to develop whatever needs to be developed. People in the communities have to take a hold of whatever it is, whether it's an educational project, an economic development project, a social development project. Take hold of it, get the tools themselves, become part of a network that will help them, and so then they can grow their own solutions, grow their own educated community, grow their own knowledge base. Although it takes a little bit more organization, we see good results in the end. You have a community that's taking hold of its future and taking a hold of what it wants to become.
What do you think are the major innovations that higher ed in Canada will experience over the next decade?
Things are changing so quickly. Society is changing so quickly. Automation is changing the work world so quickly that it's rather difficult to predict where we'll be in 10 years from now. Certainly trends that I see, students looking for specialized education, narrower fields than they've looked for in the past. We will have, I think, very specialized fields of study. A lot of international students will come to Canada for very high-level, cutting-edge learning and research possibilities as they learn. So I see an increasing internationalization of our universities and increasing specialization. But at the same time, I think with our changing society and our changing job market, students, I believe, are going to start to look again to post-secondary to give their lives meaning. So I think that we will see a renaissance of interest in philosophy, in religious studies, in the hands-on disciplines like music and fine arts. As a new generation realizes we won't be employed full-time, we have to make meaning out of life ourselves. So I think for universities there'll probably be a pull in the two different directions. The highly specialized, highly technical, cutting-edge knowledge that will keep us as a world leader. And at the same time, I believe that there'll be a renewal of interest in the humanities, in the social sciences, in disciplines that help us understand ourselves and build that good life for ourselves. What I really like is the current Ontario government's willingness to give operating money to the Aboriginal Institutes Consortium. That's where I see really exciting things happening. Education that's really controlled by the First Nations, run by the First Nations, delivered by the First Nations. You can see wonderful examples of that in other countries. One country that I happen to know a little bit about is Colombia, where they have large universities that are their First Nations run. Our Aboriginal Institutes Consortiums, right now, they're fairly small, but they're doing very interesting work. They're usually doing it in partnership with the colleges and universities of Ontario. But it's the sense of pride that you get, the sense of ownership, the sense of this is ours. I think that's fabulous. The bigger mainstream universities, our role is to help all students feel comfortable. The students from Ghana and Rwanda and Nigeria and China need to feel comfortable on our campuses, as do the First Nations students. And the other thing is that we need to work very hard that our mainstream students understand these other cultures and the other histories. We need to be really forerunners in the fight against racism and the fight against ignorance and the fight against prejudices. So when we expand our curriculum and include those other voices, that's very, very important for all students. I think over the next 10, 20 years, we'll be working much more in partnership. Science researchers always work in partnership, and their partnerships tend to be with industry, with colleges, with universities. They tend to be international. I don't know any science projects almost that aren't built on partnership. That's the way I think knowledge is going. You know, the old ivory tower of the university working all by itself, not being part of a network of knowledge, that's gone. We will be working with colleges, we will be working with the Aboriginal Institutes, we will be working with industry, we will be working with government laboratories. That universities will become more and more integrated into all levels of economic and social growth in the country.
Nurturing that culture of innovation on a campus is a challenge, and I think it's up to boards to figure out what policies can they change. It's up to administrations to figure out how can we incentivize some creativity and innovation. Do you have some thoughts about what we can do to nurture that culture of innovation?
That's a wonderful question, Ken.
One we get asked a lot.
Whoa, that's a really good question. We need to value highly those people in our institutions who have ideas, who are innovative, and they're often the difficult people. They'll come with all sorts of demands. They'll send you 10 emails a day to answer one simple question. They're bubbling over with energy, and it's too easy to sideline them. It's too easy for people to say these people are too difficult to deal with, or I don't trust this person. It's important to be able to identify those people and then help the institution live with those people. Supporting those that have a natural tendency to lead and innovate. Making sure that inside the university there's time to discuss the big ideas. It could be in the shape of a strategic plan that takes university-wide consultation. It can be in the shape of responding to the government's request for more accountability, and you have to discuss that as a whole. Just really taking time with those things and in a plan, which doesn't sound too threatening, framing some big ideas, some big visions, and then chipping away at it little by little. Especially at Algoma, we're isolated in Northern Ontario. It becomes very important to bring in outside people, outside thinkers, and make sure that that discourse is heard. Retreat days for big groups. Could be a big group of administrators, it could be a big group of faculty. Doing that somewhere where they can get into trouble, they can dunk each other in a stream, and sort of letting go of the formalities of everyday life and then having these big ideas floating around. Sometimes that's where you can get people saying, yes, let's do this, or yes, let's dare to do this, let's go there. So getting people out of their normal routine comfort zones, getting them away from their cell phones for a few minutes and just thinking as a group, hoping that spreads, hoping that it's contagious. I think that young people are inclined to innovation and have the desire to contribute so positively to our world. They're being encouraged at the school system level, at the grade school and the secondary school, to build their toolkit and to think with pride and self-confidence about what they can do. And they come into university and you can see them becoming the leaders of tomorrow.
Thanks very much for taking the last hour of your day today to talk with me. I appreciate that, Celia.
It was a very interesting conversation. You have very pertinent questions, and I think we talked about things that are very important. So thank you, Ken, too.
Hopefully pertinent and not impertinent. 10 with Ken is a production of Eduvation, Inc., copyright 2017. I'm available for conference keynotes, campus PD events, board retreats, and committee workshops, in person or now virtually, too. For more information, please visit www.eduvation.guru or 10withken.com.